issue was, why should only Delhi decide foreign policy? Why not Mumbai? Mumbai and Mumbaikars should have a say, and therefore they should be informed and know. So we thought we'll bring in this LitFest to Mumbai.
There is now a citizen consciousness, there is awareness, there is that critical mass which is wanting to look at Mumbai from the maritime perspective. So, not so much, not only from sea to water, but from water to land. Looking at India, the way culture is being positioned as the soft power in diplomacy, etc. I think it's really broadened the discourse of culture as well, and how culture can be leveraged. And I think the LitFest with these two venues will really, further that agenda.
Hello, good morning, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, young people. Wonderful to be with all of you today. I am Srikant Kesnur, retired Navy officer, and also a co-organizer of the MaxCity VoW Literature Festival, a new lit fest that we are bringing to the city of Mumbai on 1st and 2nd March. That's just a few days from now. It's a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Remember the dates, 1st and 2nd March, at the National Gallery of Modern Art and Kitab Khana, both very iconic places in the heart of Fort in South Mumbai. We are very, very delighted to have Thinkly as our digital partners. Thinkly is a place where communities and experts connect without the clutter, and where you can have great discussions. So it's wonderful for us to have Thinkly as our digital partner. Joining me in this conversation today is heritage consultant, author, and curator, Kamalika Bose. So welcome to the show, Kamalika, and wonderful to have you today.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be joining you, and also to be part of the core team that's organizing the first MaxCity VoW LitFest in Mumbai. And I'm really looking forward to the 2 days ahead as well.
Yeah, I think we're all imbued with this sense of excitement about bringing this show. Obviously, there are butterflies in the stomach. 1 week to go, but as you said, there is a sense of excitement and thrill about being part of a new venture, so to say.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I'm
So,
delighted to have you on board as one of our co-members.
thank you so much. So, Commodore Kesno, let's jump in directly into our conversation. As you said, that we're just a week away, and it's the first edition, and you have been right from the beginning one of the driving forces and the thought drivers and thought leaders of such a LitFest. So, could you tell us a little bit about the seed, the idea of this literature festival, how it started, how it has evolved, and what have been some of its key intentions and ideas to for this to have germinated?
Yes, absolutely. I'm glad you brought it out. I think the seed was in the fact that I felt, and of course some other people did too, that Mumbai is such a lovely, vibrant city, somehow seemed to have a couple of things missing. One was its relationship to the sea or maritime, about which we'll probably talk later. But also, I felt that for the country's financial capital, for, a city that was otherwise so clutched in on various national and international events, somehow geopolitics, strategy, international relations, diplomacy, military aspect seemed to elude discussions in the city. I mean, I was living in that world, but if you went to an art gallery or a book fest or a lit fest just 100 meters away from where I was working, it seemed a completely different world. I mean, no disrespect to that word. Mumbai is of many, a confluence of many streams, but somehow it seemed that this was a gap that was missing. Most lit fests, big, small, big tent ones, had a bit here and there, but there was no focus. The military lit fests, on the other hand, were far too narrow in their focus. So I felt that Mumbai lacked this. And as they say, most good things begin over a cup of coffee. So I met Prabal Das Gupta over a coffee in one of the cafes in BKC. And he also had the same idea. We had met through someone. And we said, why not start something here? Of course, both of us stay in Mumbai, live in Mumbai, but we felt that, Mumbai needed something. I mean, the financial capital needs to know, for example, how its trade is impacted by sea, or how action by Houthis and pirates in Red Sea can affect inflation here. So there were a lot of these things. I mean, the idea somehow was that Mumbai has lots of other things going, but this aspect about thinking. I mean, the issue was, why should only Delhi decide foreign policy? Why not Mumbai? Mumbai and Mumbaikars should have a say, and therefore they should be informed and know. So we thought we'll bring in this LitFest to Mumbai, and that's how it all germinated. And of course, we then quickly moved ahead. There were a lot of hiccups. There were teething issues. There still are, but I think we're on the cusp of delivering something good.
Absolutely. So you did mention, some of the issues, and as a follow-up question, it would be interesting to share how and what aspects of these maritime points will be raised, what kind of discussions we will have, because there are quite a few maritime sessions in the way the two-day program has been planned. So can you give us a little flavor of what the audience might be looking at? Because this is also very public-oriented LitFest. We are looking at the general public attending, as you said, heightening their levels of informedness and awareness on these kind of issues which have not been touched upon. So if you can just give us a little flavor of the maritime sessions.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do want a lot of public to come. And the maritime stems from the fact that I, and in many ways you too, but we'll talk about that, that, belonging to the maritime world, one felt, as I said, Mumbai is a maritime city. It is a city by the sea, and yet one is reminded of what late Admiral Nadkarni said, that people in Bombay go to the beach not to wet their feet, but to eat bhelpuri. So you wanted to change that. I mean, a city by the sea, a city that uh, trades, a city, I mean, there are iconic structures of the city, whether it is Gateway of India, whether it is the Atal Setu, whether it is the Sea Link, are all related one way or the other to the sea. So somehow you felt that maritime did not figure. For example, mills figure, but dockyard doesn't. You know, so the maritime did not figure in the city's discussion. The maritime past and the maritime present. So we thought we would have a dedicated session of about 3 hours. The theme being maritime. So on the afternoon of the first, we begin with a wonderful movie that was created by the Maritime History Society on the naval uprising of 1946, which began in Mumbai and which played a great role in India's independence ultimately. So it's a very nicely made but rarely seen movie. So we begin with that movie. Thereafter, we have an invitation talk by Sanjeev Sanyal, a very well-known author, whose books on India's maritime past have created lots of waves. And he's doing an invitation talk on India and the Indian Ocean for about half an hour, 35 minutes. And then we have 3 sessions after that. So from India and the Indian Ocean, we are on the west coast. We must speak about the Marathas, the mighty Marathas. And we got two standing books and authors there. We have Uday Kulkarni, who's a renowned historian of the Marathas. He will be in discussion with Sohail Rekhi, who has recently written a fantastic, almost poetic, lovely book on Kanhoji Angre, the great Sarkhel, the admiral of the Maratha Navy. And, Ajay Rai, who is a quite quiet but very knowledgeable person, would be joining them in this conversation. After that, we move to what might be called the modern Indian Navy. And again, we have 2 points of reference there. We have a book on the 1946 uprising, Pramod Kapoor, who has written an outstanding book called The Last War of Independence, the boss of Roli, but also otherwise the author. And we have Admiral S.K. Gupta, who took part in the 71 war. He was a Mahavir Chakra winner. In fact, he was the first man to launch the raids in East Pakistan. He has written a book on India's contribution in the 71 war. And therefore, He and Admiral Gupta and Pramod Kapoor will be joined by Sandeep Unnithan, again, who's written a lovely book called Operation X. Sandeep Unnithan's earlier book talks of the siege of 26 level, in which Mumbai was again, involved in a sense. So we have these three people, and that culminates thereafter with a fireside chat between the top Navy boss in the Western Naval Command, Admiral S.J. Singh. Very, very articulate, very outstanding person. He joins me for a fireside chat about the contemporary issues, Mary. So we're moving from, let's say, antiquity to present and trying to give a 360 degrees view. I promise you it's going to be a very, very thrilling session. And then, of course, we have another, if I may just add, a separate session on the second in Kitab Khana, which talks very specifically of Mumbai's maritime moorings. And that has, Kapil Dev Behel, who's written a book on Dufferin. Dufferin contributed a great deal to Mumbai and India. Not many people know about it. Joe Alvarez, who's written on the city of Thana and its maritime past, and that lovely book called Gateways to Sea, which talks of various ports of Mumbai, which is an anthology and edited volume. So we got some fantastic thing. And Kamalika, I'm going to give you a surprise. This has not been announced so far, but I'm using this medium in today's talk to announce. The valedictory speaker for this festival is going to be outstanding sailor and sportsman, Commander Abhilash Tommy. So he's going to close so we're going to get, I think you can't get it better than that,
That's
right?
fabulous. Yes, absolutely. Because I think he totally caught everybody's imagination when he
Mm.
went on that sail, and there was so much excitement, but also a lot of anxiety with all
Yeah,
the.
there's lots of anxiety, and so we're looking forward to him tell that even as two women are going around. So now let me sort of turn it around. You've been involved in your own wonderful, quiet way. We'll talk about what you've done for the Navy and in the maritime field a little later, but you are also moderating a panel on Bombay to Mumbai, and seeing the city through the lens of books. Would you like to talk a bit more about how you see that session unfolding and what you look forward
Yes.
to there? Yeah.
Definitely. So, I have been researching. I've been a researcher, author, architectural historian for a long time now, and one has always looked at Bombay, now Mumbai, the transitions that have occurred historically from a sort of architectural and urban lens. And
Yeah.
how does one write about the city? How does one think about the city? How does one capture its historical evolution in phases, how it is linked to politics of that time and the kind of architecture that evolved out of it, the kind of styles that Mumbai has seen because of it being this financial epicenter, not only now, but even historically, and how that has given rise to the built environment, so to say. And there are many stellar books and authors and thought leaders in Mumbai civil society and professionals who have written many compelling books on this as well. But as I became a resident of Mumbai, I'm talking about, having engaged with a lot of this subject matter and research when I was not living in Mumbai. But 10 years back, when I moved to Mumbai, I began to feel that residents in the city, while we talk about the architecture, while we think about the city, even today, the kind of modern developments that are happening, but they're mostly road based, they're highway networks, coastal roads, the metro, bridges, railways, etc. But we're kind of Mumbaikars today, and for some time now, are getting more and more delinked from their waterfront, from their shoreline, from their coast, which is really the genesis of this city. For not only the seed that grew into the city of Mumbai and the Seven Islands, but even right up to the early 20th century, Mumbai has seen so much, right from the early shipyards that came up from the East India Company to modern shipping, porting. There's an entire trajectory which exists, which has also led to the creation of its own built heritage, its own iconic structures, which today because they have lied, behind very high and very well secured walls of areas like the Bombay Dockyard, the Bombay Port Trust, or even Mazgaon Dock. And we have failed to engage as the public or as citizens. And also, so now it's a great opportunity, because I feel these organizations also have emerged to become a little more public facing. They want to engage with the public more. And nowadays a lot of walks and some opportunities are available through heritage walks to go into these kind of territories, and for the citizen to be more engaged with this heritage of Bombay. And I think in that context, this panel that we have becomes very important, and seen in that sort of linkage, that it's another attempt to sort of bridge this, but also create these links between the maritime aspects of the city, some forgotten maritime aspects of the city, and then capturing it through authors who have written about Mumbai. They may have written about specific neighborhoods, such as, Shabnam Meenwala writes about Kolaba, but we till the say, for example, till the Sassoon Dock Art Festival began a few years back with Start, nobody was really going to Sassoon Docks as public. The whole
Yeah,
idea
yeah,
was
yeah,
it just smells
yeah.
of fish, and it's where some sort of fish market takes place. One really didn't know. So these are like, even in the average citizen's mind who goes to Kolaba very regularly to maybe for some shopping on the causeway, or even live there, or to the iconic bars and restaurants, there become certain areas which are very strong maritime or seafaring traditions, which are not explored. And I think this panel also allows us, through the authors, their own writing and engagement, including you are on that panel as well. So I'm very much looking forward to your views on some of this that I just spoke about, that how do we bring back this sort of kind of lost memory of some of this, but also this important waterfront, which is so important, but it's kind of now we're turning our back towards it. And now with the coastal road, etc., the sea is going farther and further away from us, even from our view, in a certain sense.
So, so I'm so glad that you brought it out. I'm of course very much honored to share that panel with biggies like Murli Ranganathan. Shabnam is, Murli is a authority on Mumbai's history. Shabnam has written so many books, and you have sort of mapped the city's architecture in many ways. In fact, people don't know because of that you've also been an author, and author of as diverse subjects as a book on Calcutta and on the Hoysala architecture, which I think, I belong to Karnataka and very partial to Hoysala, as I've visited those places, Belur and Halabid, and it's fabulous architecture. But you mentioned an important thing, Kamalika, and I want us to stay on that a little. One, of course, you talked of the Heritage Walk. So I'm very glad because we have in the fest on the morning of second Sunday, a heritage walk inside the naval prisons where you can see the naval heritage structures. This is a great opportunity, so people should sign up when they come to the fest and all that, and land up there. So you will get, those of you who sign up for the heritage walk will get a wonderful tour of the naval prisons and heritage structures. But to come back, you had mentioned a very important sentence. We said we are delinked from the waterfront. And of course, you also added that now organizations are somewhat more receptive to opening up and showcasing a bit of their heritage. And you played an important role in that. You've done the Naval Dockyards Museum, you did the interiors for the INS Marmgav, and now you're handling another project. So tell us a bit more about an architect who came from Calcutta 10 years ago, saw the city, and then at some point of time got in touch with the maritime mooring, so to say. How do you view your own journey understanding our maritime past?
So this is a very interesting question, and it's a question which I, even when I kind of talk about this or reflect about this, I feel that was really a happy accident, because when I moved to Mumbai, and I had not set up my practice as then, but I was working with organizations and other architects at that time, Rahul Mehrotra being the key
Oh, wow.
person who
Yeah.
has written a lot on Mumbai, including
Yes, yes,
he has a book on the naval heritage
yes,
as
yes,
well.
yes.
So
Yeah.
these kind of engagements for me was through literature. And then having arrived in the city, or I've already been to Mumbai many times before, so I was, like I said, architecturally I was aware of its built heritage, but not so much, or rather not at all, about what lay beyond the high walls on of Shahid Bhagat Singh Road, or within the Bombay Port Trust, etc. So I always looked at Mumbai. A lot of my research that I started doing at that time were on the forts, which were essentially like watch and defense sort of posts, like the Worli Fort, Bandra Fort. So the forts of Mumbai, which were essentially from the Portuguese or the British period, I started looking at some of the communities, such as the different Koliwaras and how they came about. But there was really no engagement with the navy, or the shipping, or the port, or those sort of aspects. So when this opportunity came about to work in the naval dockyard, it really opened up a new avenue and a new chapter, I think, for my professional journey, because by then I had set up my own practice in Mumbai, which looked at not only cultural built and cultural heritage, but also interpretation. So how do you interpret, and how do you share with the larger audience? So books and writing books is one way of that engagement, but exhibitions and museums become one other mode through which you engage with the public and are able to translate a lot of this information in engaging and immersive ways for a general audience to be more interested in these kind of topics. So when the opportunity for the naval dockyard came up, and it was a heritage building within the naval dockyard, which is basically beyond whatever lies beyond Lion Gate. It was very interesting, because for me it was also almost educational to learn about the 285 year history of Bombay's naval dockyard. Many of its buildings are some of the earliest buildings of the city. The Duncan dock itself, and the Bombay dock, dates back to almost the 1750s. So we're talking about mid 18th century. A lot of the early structures, even like the curved wall which has the clock tower, which opens on Shahid Bhagat Singh Road, they are some of the earliest buildings of the city, which kind of need to be acknowledged in that sense again. And I think by being able to capture some of this, it really allowed me to understand many more diverse aspects. Also, I think it overlapped beautifully, because this led me, like you said, to work on INS Mormugao and design the VIP compartments for INS Mormugao. And then subsequently, it has been a continuous sort of 4 to 5 year old engagement now with Indian Navy and allied associations, who are one of them being Maritime Mumbai Museum Society, who have also for many years been trying to build a maritime museum in this city, which is again very much lacking. So I think there is now a citizen consciousness, there is awareness, there is that critical mass which is wanting to look at Mumbai from the maritime perspective. So not so much, not only from sea to water, but from water to land.
Right. Yeah.
And I think I'm at that juncture, where I'm able to be a catalyst to drive some of these initiatives, and also partake in, therefore, this new kind of discourse and awareness which is beginning to come. And in that context, I would also look at the LitFest as one other mode of that engagement itself.
So I'm so glad you mentioned about from sea to land and how now organizations are also looking to interface. And we exactly had that experience when we were doing this Lit Fest. I mean, one must acknowledge the fantastic support that we have had from, say, the Maritime History Society, which came on board and said that yes, they became our first knowledge partners, so to speak. Then we had the Hindustan shipyard, started by the great Valchand Hirachand, so they came into support, and entities, for example, like Larsen and Toubro, Mahindra, Defense, many people who I possibly cannot name because they may not want to be named, but they have been so sort of positive in their support. And many of these people are those who deal, as you say, between land and sea sort of structures. I also, in the same vein, we got this lovely support from our two venues, the NGMA and the Kitab Khana. So I want you to sort of dwell a little bit because these are two iconic venues, and in their own way, NGMA is this very, very old, with architecturally magnificent. Kitab Khana is very young, buzzing, vibrant. So I think they in some ways represent the yin and yang of this fest, if I can call that. From your perspective as a spaces, interiors, architect person, how do you see these two venues for the Lit Fest and what we're doing?
I think yes, absolutely. It's so exciting that we have this iconic venue, which is NGMA, and also this new venue, which lies in a historic building, but is
Mm.
really geared and designed to bring in new conversations of the time, etc. And it's like two
Yeah,
generations of uh, discussion kind of space, and when they come together, then the kind of discourse that emerges, and through this lit fest, which is also a new offering. So I
yeah,
think a city like Bombay is continually reinventing itself. A building like NGMA, of course, it's one of the most iconic buildings at a very iconic location, but also the kind of patronage the person is named after. So Kawasji Jahangir, and it shows the patronage of the time, the involvement of elite citizens in having a voice in philanthropy, being a very important part of the way public institutions in Bombay came up to allow for these kind of discussions, exhibitions. So there was already a heightened sense of publicness through such kind of cultural institutions, and that legacy has been, of course, beautifully continued. NGMA itself is almost a century old um, institution,
yes,
and when we see Kitab Khana, which is also in a historic building, but the way it's been designed, the kind of events they have, the kind of audience that goes there, because it's also a bookstore, it has a different kind of access than NGMA, which is primarily an art gallery and an auditorium space. So I think sometimes these worlds don't meet, but because the kind of audience that goes to an NGMA for a lecture may or may not be the same that browses through the books in Kitab Khana. But Kitab Khana also, I think, does very interesting talks and discussions, etc. It is very city minded and public minded in that sense, in the kind of events that it hosts in its space. And then it has a cafe, etc. So it's always buzzing. It's a very lively space for today. And in that sense, trying to bring up alive again that culture of reading and finding new ways of engaging people to read and engage with authors, etc. So with these two venues, I think in the kind of location that they are in, it promises to be very exciting, but also bring in new audiences to places they might not have gone to as venues, to especially to talk about these aspects that the litfest will be talking about. Normally, even I have attended many programs at both these venues, but they have been about art, architecture,
yeah, yeah,
culture in a way. But I think now, even looking at India, the way culture is being positioned as the soft power in diplomacy, etc. I think it's really broadened the discourse of culture as well, and how culture can be leveraged. And I think the LitFest with these two venues will really, further that agenda significantly.
Absolutely. And you said that, and I'd like to bring two issues here. One is, you brought out about different kinds of audiences, and we want to reach out to all. So our prospective audiences should not go under any impression that because we're talking geopolitics and strategy or diplomacy, it's going to be something serious or dreary. I think we got a very, very lovely mix in both the places. For example, if I can take the food panel, India's soft power, so to say. I mean, we got someone like Rashmi Uday Singh, who's an authority with food, Ravi Wazir, who's written a book, who's moderating, Kurush Dalal, who's a food historian. And we got an interesting combination with them. There's a serving officer, Commander Sneha, who's taught at the Navy's catering school. So she'll be bringing forth how, at an institutional level, armed forces prepares, say, food on ships, how these go across to different shores. So our theme-based discussions are interesting. For example, on biographies, we have Vaibhav Purandare, who's written on Tilak, and Arjun Subramaniam, who's written on General Nanavati, a Mumbai boy, not serving, but a general who's around, one of the most iconic army officers, contemporary generals. So we have this mix where we make it interesting, and we got a different set of authors in each of the sessions. So we got something about money and markets, we got Mumbai, we got mythology, history, how they come in, big names like Amish Tripathi, you know.
Mm.
So I mean, what I'm trying to say, the program should be out shortly. We got lots of big names. We are discussing war cinema, for example, in India, and how this happens. So my basic idea is, folks see the program when it comes. It's not limited to maritime. It's not just serious discussions. There'll of course be a lot of scope for good, substantial substantial discussions, but it'll also be interesting. And between the two venues, we have something for everyone. The second part relates again to the two venues. We were simply delighted about how both of them came on board, and I must place that on record here. The director of NGMA, Lady Chaudhary ji, and Kitab Khana, they just said, yes, we are with this. They were very positive, very nice. That was lots of encouragement to newbies like us. We had no idea. Prabal had no, and I had no idea how to go about. So we got lots of help. Sangam Talks came in to say we will record. Thinkly came on board. We are probably having a media partnership with a known media entity soon. Midcat Advisory, a small, a reputed advisory, but consisting of a bunch of dedicated people. They said, come, start and use our office and begin. They're not small by any means, they're huge multinational. It was the way everyone came forward to support us in this venture. I think uh, that was very encouraging. So what I'm trying to say is there was we didn't see any generational thing. I mean, Midcat has a lot of people who are young and who are at the senior levels, and all of them seemed enthusiastic about a venture, and so did Kitab Khana. Places like that. So I think we're on to something interesting.
Absolutely. And actually, what I loved also is the way the Litfest, the byline, which is now we are beginning to see on its collaterals and publicity material, which says that, issues that we should engage with as a nation. And I think
Yeah.
that is also very important because the discussions, literature, the books, there's so many books written on all these topics that you mentioned, but we kind of also the general audience may or may not read them.
Yeah,
So by
yeah,
by again making these books available, I think Kitab Khana plays also a very important role in that, in making the books of the authors available. The authors will
yeah.
be present themselves for an interaction and a discussion beyond the panels can take place between sessions, etc. So that it really again gives the public an occasion to in a very in great venues. So and event is open to all. So, it's also very directly putting the authors, their books, these kind of new topics with the audience and the public in a very direct and also accessible and approachable way. And I think we are in that time where like I could definitely say from the culture point of view that culture is not something which is an elite preserve or restricted to the domain of only a few, and that has been the case for a long time. But I think this whole repositioning of culture as soft power and culture for international relations and diplomacy is it's so wonderful that culture has and history has found a
Yeah.
place in
Yeah.
the fest is as well, because I strongly see it as a domain that we must, all of us must engage with as a nation, as citizens of the nation.
True, true, true. And like you said earlier, that you were a catalyst for something. I think this LitFest is a catalyst to sort of bring some of these issues to the fore and bring a lot of aspects of say Navy, and I'm looking to see some you know as they say, some untold stories or some new nuggets, and these things always come, some little bit and bite there, some interesting thing, and that's what makes the fest very vibrant and very uh, you know uh, something to look forward to, because it triggers your imagination and it does in an interesting way.
And I think you are best poised to really foresee this, and this in a way it's also a grand vision to birth something like this, which is new, but also in the context many layers of Mumbai, and even to call it Max City, because the city has so much to offer, and
Yeah.
this is one other really important aspect. And I hope it becomes a highlight in the city's calendars in the years to come, annually. But I think I think it would be nice if you talk a little bit about, because now one kind of looks at you as a navy historian, author, but you've had a absolutely fabulous career in the navy, right from your days at the NDA to the time when you chose to be in the navy, your time in the seas, in the warships. So if you can, and then transitioning also later to writing about history, naval history, and you're probably the rare experts and naval historians who's also so public minded and so conscious about heightening the maritime awareness through your writings, through your blogs, through your podcasts. You're so engaged in making the public more aware of these things. So if you can just tell us how that journey and transition also happened, and now to the LitFest. So it's really a very interesting and dynamic professional arc for you.
Yeah, it is. And I'll use the same word that you used earlier, happy accident. So I was not meant to join the Navy. I had not seen much of sea except a brief visit to Bombay as a kid. And at the Gateway of India, I was frankly terrified of the sea then. I never knew I'd joined the Navy. I mean, why that happened is another story, but it was a lovely accident. And one of the great things about being in the Navy after the National Defense Academy was that Navy encourages you to actually think, to study. All I have actually had, while being firmly anchored in operations and mainstream Navy, almost a parallel trajectory in academics, teaching, studying, and learning. And much of this was kind of encouraged by the Navy, for which I'm grateful. But at some time, I saw, the Navy characterizes itself as a silent service, and perhaps rightly so, because things happen out at sea. But at some point of time, I felt that, you need the armed forces bit more in the domain of public culture, so to say, because we seem to be that country where you have wars, you have conflicts, you have maritime issues, things that deeply affect the nation, but somehow they did not seem to figure in the national discourse substantially. I'll give you a very small example. Some days back, a little video of mine went viral. I mean, it had been recorded earlier, where I brought out that if people use several apps in the smartphone today, It is due to something called the MIMO technology, whose inventor was a retired naval officer called Commodore Paul Raj. Now this is interesting. In a sense, the world uses mobile phones to their best because of a retired Indian Navy officer, and his journey started, as he himself said, in this after we lost the kukri in the 71 war, because I mean you're associated somewhere with the kukri project. So these are these lovely, ways in which the past is very has a bearing on the present, or the fact that the man who designed the first of Navy's ships, Captain Mohan Ram, he's also the designer of the TVS Scooty, which sort of made mobility so much possible in tier two towns, and gave a sense of agency, particularly to women. And he often jokes, he says, I'm known more as an inventor of TVS Scooty than I am of the designer of ships. So you've had this great thing. See, like I wrote in an article that Morarji Desai, our prime minister, he embarked the naval ships in his brief tenure as a prime minister of less than 2 years or so. He crossed by jackstay from one ship to another when the ships are moving, which is really, really praiseworthy. But he did that twice. You know, now that requires a lot of strength in your arms and all, because the ships are moving. It's a very complicated thing. But he did that twice. I don't think any politician in the world, much less a prime minister, much less someone who's been over 80 years of age, has done it once. Uh, and here we have a gentleman who did twice. Now, the great fascinating thing is that the Navy chief and air chief tried to dissuade him. They were bothered about security, war accident. And the air chief at that time told him, Sir, don't do it. This needs a lot of strength in your arms. And Morarji Bhai's reply to him was classic. He says, Aja panja lada le. I mean, this is on the deck of a ship. This makes for such brilliant reports, lovely conversation, these things happening. And I found that none of this, I'm interested. I believe, yes, there are readers for serious stuff, but you needed to bridge the serious with the popular in a way that you don't dumb down, but you so that's how I got involved a bit. We made some Amar Chitra Katha series about the Navy and maritime past. Then Amish and I teamed up to do about the Indian Navy in 71 war, because not many people know that Navy played a big role in the 71 war. Not many know about the great maritime heritage of almost 3 centuries, about which you have done a lot of work in the Naval Dockyard. So I felt that you needed some way for this to be. I mean, I look at architecture also in more living terms. Do we look at Gateway only as something that the British built, or do we look at it where Abhilash Tomy began and finished his circumnavigation? So, therefore, should we not have a plague there? There was a ship called INS Panvel, which went right into the heart of East Pakistan and won the highest. It had just 30 people, and it had maximum number of gallantry awards in the 71 war. Why doesn't the town of Panvel, which itself was a great port city, and now an airport is coming close by, why doesn't it have a model of INS Panvel, which covered itself in glory? So I tend to think of this more in terms of ways in which living history can meld and segue into public culture. So that's been my life's mission. And again, I'm grateful for the opportunities given. And I hope this LitFest will be one more in that. Of course, I must acknowledge that this would not have been possible without all of you in the team, without Prabal, without Eka, without Mangesh, without Nikhil, without Vibhu, with everyone who's been so much a part of this team, working together to make this successful, and all our partners, without money. So hopefully all of that will result in some good outcomes.
Definitely, definitely. And I think with 7, 8 days away, and that's when it's going to be showtime. Until then, we continue to do all
Yeah.
the organizational things in the run up to that, and then sort of let it flow over those 2 days.
Yes, absolutely. So we let it flow, and we look forward to support of all of you, all Indians, especially of all Mumbaikars. Please come, be there 1st and 2nd of March. It begins sometime 9:30 in the morning, goes on till 6:37 in the evening. We'll release the schedule soon. Both NGMA and Kitab Khana, come there, be there, share widely, spread the word. We look forward to hosting you and join us in this endeavor to start something new in Mumbai. So I think that's a good occasion to sort of end this conversation. We thank Thinkly once more for giving us this platform. Thank you so much, Kamalika, for being, as always, a lovely conversationist. And it's been wonderful talking.
Likewise. And now look forward to seeing you in person very soon.
Yes, yes, yes. I also, yeah, I want to take this opportunity to tell everyone that we're going to have a curtain raiser event at the Kitab Khana on the 25th at 5:30 in the evening, 5:30 p.m. We, of course, will talk a bit more about this fest, what it means. We'll bring some authors there. So the curtain raiser in Kitab Khana on the 25th, 5:30, 25th Feb, just a few days from now. So those of you who can make it to Kitab Khana on 25th, please be there too. Thank you.
Thank you.